Tiffany, my dear, I am so glad to have you back in the summit. Tiffany and I are pretty close these days, and we talk a lot about gems. We talk a lot about all things life and dharma and transits. Tiffany is quite an accomplished Jyotishi as well as one of the best and most well-known Vedic gemologists in the world. And of course, she runs Astrological Gem. And she has been here, I think, every summit that we've had. And she's back for year three. We were just saying that we don't know exactly what today's session will bring. We never know exactly what each session will bring. We've talked about a variety of different topics and ways that gems can support us in these dark times. Gems for the horrors, gems for your dharma, gems to protect you from dusty ass men, gems for the apocalypse, all the different ways that gems can support us in these dark times. Tiffany has vast knowledge. She also has a great sense of humor. She keeps things fun, light, and inspiring. You are really good at helping me remember that, Tiffany, and I love you for that. Thank you. We know I can get a little dark.
You're the Scorpio to my Sagittarius. So, we're a good balance for each other.
Yes. Tiffany reminds me to stay light, playful, and fun. And she's actually traveling right now, as Jyotishis tend to always be traveling. I don't know if others realize this, but try putting on a summit with 16 different Jyotishis, and half of them are traveling somewhere in the world, like Kathmandu or Bali. And Tiffany's in Miami right now, but she generously said she would join us and didn't bail on me. So I'm very grateful. Thank you, Tiffany.
I extended my hotel stay for 2 hours, so we can rock this. So we can rock this summit. I'm
So we
looking
can
forward.
rock this summit and have some fun doing it. So if you don't know Tiffany, she's the CEO and co-owner of Astrological Gem International. She's trained at the American College of Vedic Astrology. She's a certified gemstone advisor through Planetary Gemologist Association, and she's served thousands of clients in the Vedic astrology community with research-based gemstone insight and advice since 2026. So Tiffany is the source for gemstone wisdom insights, and she has a very special, unique, living experience with these gemstones. And I'm hoping that we're going to get into some of that because the gemstones have stories, and Tiffany has stories of the gemstones, and it gets really fascinating. So, and it's certainly been my experience so far that these gemstones are a wild ride. So, Tiffany, I'm going to hand it over to you. I'll mute myself. I know you've got some slides for us, and I'm so glad you're here. Thank you.
Yes. Thank you. I'm really excited to be here. Thanks everybody for joining us. I have been in the astrological gemstone field for 20 years now. This is year 20. I started my career working with gems, as some of you know, as a skeptic. I did not believe when I first got into this work that gemstones had the capacity to change people's lives. It seemed to me that surely it was a placebo effect. I couldn't make any sense of it, but curiosity got the better of me. I was originally a gemstone photographer. That's how I got into this work. But just working with and handling the gems, I started noticing how they would affect me in various ways. And slowly but surely tried every single possible gemstone combination on myself. I would say I'm probably one of the biggest, I call myself a gemstone psychonaut. I guess another way of putting that is a gemstone guinea pig. I will test anything and see what happens, for better or for worse on myself. And then once I have it down, I'll test it on my family. I have researched the effects of astrological gemstones on thousands of clients over the years in detail as time goes on. One of my favorite things is asking people to get back to me as months go on, as years go on, and let me know how their lives have changed since they've been wearing astrological gems so I can track it. So that's where I describe myself as one of the only research-based Vedic gemologists that are out there. The truth for me comes from experiences and listening to clients and updating my own field of knowledge based on what I see out there and the results that people have. So I encourage self-referral above all else. We will talk about this a little bit. My goal is to help educate people to have enough wisdom and knowledge and self-referral with the gemstones that they don't need to rely on an astrologer or a guru or an ancient Vedic textbook to validate, confirm, or explain the experiences that they're having. So the gemstones really do work with us to give us the knowledge and insight if we trust ourselves enough to tune into the wisdom that they're giving us. So that's a big part of what I like to do these days is coach people on translating the effects that they're having and understanding the shifts that are happening in their energy, in their lives, to make sense of it, to work with it, and to navigate the results that they're going to have for the better. So I do have a little slideshow here. We're going to talk a little bit about the 9 Jyotish gemstones, what they do, how they relate to the planets. I'm going to teach you a little bit about how to recommend gemstones for astrology. So for those of you that are getting into doing readings for people and might be interested in doing gemstone recommendations for people, I am available as a resource. Everything that I know, I would like to share with you so that you can recommend gemstones for people safely and effectively. So I'll share some resources on how to do that as well, since there's a lot to cover in a limited amount of time. I'm going to go ahead and share my screen here. And we are going to move over. Let's see. Cool. Can you guys see the slide? Is that okay? Great. So I decided to call this presentation Gems for Alignment in All Times. And as Swati mentioned, we went through a couple different titles. Gems for the Apocalypse was really a big one. She and I talk often about what we've been calling the collapse. Basically, everything that we knew in society, in patriarchal society, in colonized society, we feel is starting to crumble. The veil is being lifted. World leaders are corrupt at best, unspeakably evil at worst. There is so little in the structures of modern day society and capitalism that we can rely on to succeed. If we want to stay in truth, stay in alignment, stay in dharma, stay in integrity. So a really big question for me is right now, how do I help people work with astrological gems to stay in alignment with their dharma as everything around us is changing? And so I've tried to stop myself from calling it the impending societal collapse. And I'm really trying to use the word transition. The Great Transition feels perhaps even a little bit more true and neutral to me than the Great Collapse, because through every collapse, especially of something that needs to collapse, something more profound and more aligned can come through. So those of us that work in these fields, I think are really here on this planet right now to help encourage each other and support each other through these transitional times, and share our tools and resources to stay afloat and stay inspired and stay tuned in to the goodness that is still here. But currently, the darkness is just a lot louder. So, we're kind of working through these different models of how we can be of service in the new world when the new world has not fully shown up yet. So it's kind of an interesting time. I kind of feel like in my own work, I'm really blessed that the gemstones have a way of almost speaking to me and speaking through me. I always tell people that gemstones chose me for this work. I feel very much so that I did not consciously seek this. I have been put in place. And that's kind of a cool thing about Dharma, I feel. I almost can't get away from it. The gems kind of want to speak to me. And even the spirit of the business that I work for, Astrological Gem, speaks to me to a certain extent. And something interesting that has happened in the past several months is that business, which is normally, we're very cosmically supported. There's always abundance. Everybody's taken care of. In recent months, business really slowed down to a halt. It's something I've never seen before. The phones stopped ringing. The few people that I spoke to were really in a state of fear paralysis. This was around, the Iran situation, the Epstein files situation. There was just this shockwave in the spiritual community, and my own business really went silent. And the interesting thing about my business and the way that it communicates to me is that that silence was clearly telling me something. And Swati and I talked a lot about it as it was happening. I was like, is there even a place for astrological gemstones in this collapse, so to speak? Am I being asked to reconsider what I do? And I knew in my bones I was not being asked to reconsider what I do, but I was being asked to restructure what I do, why I do it, and how I do it. So I've really been deeply meditating on what does it look like, in the old world, we recommend gemstones for career success or marriage harmony or better income, very kind of classic things in this society. But when you kind of strip all of this away, gemstones for true alignment, what does that actually mean? What is alignment in the new world? What is alignment in the world that we want to build? So this is really the conversation that I have started having with people. And as we've started kind of renewing this concept of who do we want to be, to show up for in these times, the phones started ringing again, and people have been coming back around. And there's this new, interesting collaborative experience that I'm having with my clients as we are all working together to figure out what we want to usher in, because I don't believe it's ultimately been determined yet. We are actively building the future that we want to see. So the guru student thing is kind of rebalancing. So we are all sources of wisdom for each other. We are all peers in this. There's an element of equality that, we are all learning together. We're all exploring together. So that's kind of the exploratory nature of what we're talking about today, is how do we use Vedic technology collaboratively to increase consciousness and light in a time that darkness appears to be prevailing. So what I used to always ask my clients when I would work with them, talk about gems for various things, for more money, for more career, for more relationships, I would always start by asking, what do you want in your life? And we even talked about this, I think, at the last summit. It's one of the most important questions to ask. What do you want? Because a lot of people do not even have that clarity on what they want. Maybe they know they want more happiness or security, but when you actually fine tune what they want, the actual specifics, I feel like that has always been such an important practice to get as specific as possible. But lately, I've been realizing that the questions need to evolve a little bit, because so many of us that are bright, spiritual, sensitive, are in this state right now of paralysis, of grief, of fear, of uncertainty, of lack of confidence. So when we ask, what do we want? It's like, yeah, well, we want to feel safe. We want to make sure that we have food. We want to make sure that the bills get paid. We want to make sure, that our pets and our children are taken care of no matter what. These are obvious. It's almost like when there's almost survivalist mentality coming in. What do you want? Suddenly the question doesn't even make sense as much anymore. So something I've been asking myself and the people around me, when we are light workers in a state of paralysis, what does make me come alive still? Because business as usual has not been making me come alive anymore. Talking about this does make me come alive. The things that bring me joy, I'm realizing, my animals, my plants, my crystals, play, travel, music, I'm realizing, becoming increasingly critical to focus on the things that bring us joy, because that's what keeps our spirit afloat and offsets the darkness. Humor, absurdity. I have this theory that absurdity is one of the greatest antidotes to fear and to evil. It's like you joke around with this stuff, it completely disempowers darkness. And the question of how do I want to be of service is a really interesting one, because I think that all of us are here to be in service to a greater good. But the critical part is eliminating the shoulds. I think so many of us have terrible cases. I really should be doing that podcast. I really should be building that healing arts center. I really should. And then we get paralyzed in all of this. So when it comes to service, these top two questions, how does it bring joy? How can you be so full of inspiration that you can't not do it? is really, I think, the question, and where we need to kind of follow the cues in our nervous system right now. What delights us, not what should we be doing. Community, I think, is another just absolutely critical one, because we all talk about trying to change the world with our light and our resources, but it starts in community. So if we talk about in our immediate environment, what do we want to contribute? What do we want to share? What do we want to exchange? I think has to become a critical question. And this unknown world that's hopefully going to come through, through the darkness as things collapse that are no longer meant to be upheld. What do we want that to look like, and how do we want to participate in that? So these are the questions that I'm trying to reframe, so that we can ask our bodies and our own internal knowledge the direction that we want to move through. Because I think a lot of us that are stuck in paralysis right now will still get up for joy. There is still joy to be had. Maybe we just need to give ourselves permission to realize that joy and dharma are deeply correlated right now, and quite frankly, to be in joy is probably going to be dharma at a certain point. And quite frankly, joy is an act of resistance in a world that is expecting us to be silent and afraid. So let's talk about how Jyotish gems can be used in this context. They are a tool that energetically uplifts us. They give us energetic coherence. They work on the energy body first. We all have an electromagnetic field around us, otherwise known as an aura. And when you put gemstones on, we have proven that this is the first place that they affect us, is in our auric field. I rented all of this aura camera technology and did these blind studies on people, putting different gems on them when they didn't know what they had, comparing different effects that they have. So we do know that the electromagnetic field around us can be in a state of coherence or incoherence. It's not that everybody started shooting out rainbows and sparkles in their aura in these aura cams, but you did see coherence is the best way that I can describe it. Things that looked muddy or chaotic became more symmetrical, balanced. I'm not an aura reader myself. We did have somebody on site that could at the time, and the results were very interesting. So gemstones are uniquely conscious. We've talked a little bit about this. We'll talk about it a little bit more in the future, but gemstones do want to work with humanity. They sat in the ground for millions, if not hundreds of millions of years, waiting to come to light, to be cut and worn with people. It's a very interesting, I think, experience for them to have, to interact with human consciousness. And I find that the astrological gems specifically really do work with targeted application, with targeted intention. The crystal healing world, the general crystal healing world, is also really interesting to me, but it's not quite as targeted as astrological gemstones. And a lot of people that wear them report that they almost feel like these devatas come through the gemstones, like these little, precious sacred creatures are coming through on their hands. So I do encourage my clients to communicate with their gems, ask for help, collaborate with the stones themselves to get into that place of alignment. And I think one of the most interesting things to realize that most people don't understand is that gemstones do not change the world around you. That's kind of a misconception, that you put them on and all of a sudden all of this stuff happens around you to your benefit. It's more that you align, you upgrade, you connect with your higher self, and in that state, position yourself to click into an improved reality. So it's actually you in the driver's seat getting into this place of alignment to then manifest these external results around you. So you always come first. The gems are not fixing things around you. They're working with you to call in the experience in this lifetime that you want. So I wanted to chat briefly about my experience, take it or leave it, with a couple of these dharmic tools that are related. Gemstones effectively amplify the frequencies of the planets, for better or for worse. Mantras are a co-worker to gemstones, where gemstones are working with the frequency of light, mantras are working with the frequency of sound. They go hand in hand, but I would almost describe a gemstone as something that is working in the background 24/7 to bring that frequency into your energetic field. Whereas a mantra with the power of sound, in my opinion and experience, works with the psyche as you are repeating the mantras to align yourself to those frequencies. But it kind of works as you're doing it, where a gemstone is 24/7 as long as you're wearing it. You can could do both at the same time. That's a really wonderful way to do it. I used to tell people 10, 15 years ago, wear gemstones for your friendly planets and do mantras for your malefic planets or your unhelpful ones. I have started to question that a little bit because no matter what mantra you are doing, you are interacting with the consciousness and the wisdom of that planet. So you're still imparting it. It just so happens that if you're doing it in meditation to work with a malefic planet, you have maybe a little bit more control over the knowledge that you're going to get, the wisdom, the neutralization effect, the lessons that you have to learn from that planet. Whereas a gemstone, you can potentially steer something out of control if you're not paying attention. So there's different ways of utilizing similar technologies. The other nice thing is that mantras are free and gemstones are an investment. So sometimes if I talk to somebody who does not have the ability to purchase a Vedic gemstone, I will suggest Vedic mantras for that same planet because you will still be establishing a karmic relationship with that remedy. It's just a little bit more work. It's just a little more dedication. You just got to do it for an hour every morning or 108 rounds of that mantra, So gems are almost a luxury that, they do a lot of the heavy lifting while you're going about your day. And then Vedic yagyas are an interesting one because it's very much so related. But in my experience, again, take it or leave it, yagyas have a way of obliterating obstacles that are in your way. And oftentimes, this does not go the way that we wanted it to. I will tell you a little personal experience I had last year, actually, when Swati and I started kind of chatting and texting every day. I had actually just gotten engaged and did a yagya for the marriage. And within 7 days, the entire relationship completely fell apart. Just gone, just shambles, obliterated, almost explosively so. And when I look back a year and a half later, I am so grateful that happened. It was 100%. You cannot tell me that it was not because of this yagi. It was just an immediate effect. Just the unraveling happened immediately. And if I had gotten married to that person, I would really be not on the trajectory that I am right now. I am so grateful that happened. 2 months ago, I was with a guy and got a yagya done for that relationship. Immediately, the entire thing began unraveling. I'm in a major relationship transit right now, so I think in my mind, I had this expectation I was going to get married this year. Maybe I was trying to force it or something. But it's become so clear by these yagyas obliterating illusion and attachment to relationship and to marriage that I'm really realizing if I were to be in partnership, it would have to be one that completely honored, supported, and reinforced my dharma, my power, my volume, my loudness, my eccentricity, my passion. And none of these relationships did. I liked who I was in service to somebody, in reverence to somebody, but it was not reciprocal. And I was becoming half a person in this desperate attempt to fulfill some desire for partnership. And that's not part of my dharma. My dharma is to be in my wholeness. And but I will also say, I'm here in Miami. I'm on my way to this music festival that I just could not financially make it work. Yesterday morning, I was like, there's just no way I can do this. Flights were thousands of dollars last minute. I got a Navaratri yagya done yesterday morning. Sat down at my computer, and all of a sudden, this $2,000 plane ticket dropped to $200. I had a $160 flight credit with that airline. So I got here for $40. And there has just been one thing after another. I flew out of Chicago. I didn't realize Chicago rush hour traffic was so insane. I would have been 2 hours late for my flight. I was sitting in rush hour traffic, like, I'm going to miss my flight. Like, well, I guess that didn't work. And ding, I got a notification that the flight was delayed by 2 hours. So I made it, no problem. There's just been this beautiful, talk about removal of obstacles, to have this wonderful experience. I'm going to pack up after this trip and just go play at a music festival. And it was just like, that joy that I really needed, it would be medicinal for me. It's like the obstacles just were removed to make this happen. And I fully believe it was because of that little yagya I did yesterday. So, in other words, there is a higher truth, there's higher alignment. And if we have an illusion of a desire that we want and we get a yagya done, it's going to remove that illusion. It's going to remove any expectations that we have that are not truly in alignment with our greater growth. So be prepared for that. It's a great tool. But fire medicine is, it can be brutal. So, I want to talk just briefly about Vedic gemstones and quality criteria. There are plenty of buying guides that I've written online. There's plenty of blog articles about it. So, we don't need to spend too much time on this. But it's very important to know that astrological gemstones, for them to be an effective tool, they have to be untreated, they have to be unheated. Most sapphires on the market, 99% of them are heat treated to amplify their color, to make them look crisper and cleaner. When you heat treat a sapphire, you're basically almost bringing it to its melting point, 16, 1700 degrees, to clarify out these impurities. And when you do that, you basically kill the spirit of the gem. They no longer have the capacity to be conscious. They no longer speak in the way that the natural ones do. They don't translate planetary frequencies anymore. You basically kill it. You kill it and it looks pretty. It's an empty shell of itself. So making sure that you're working with somebody that only specializes in gems they can guarantee are unheated is really, really important. Flawlessness is another thing. When a gemstone has a lot of natural inclusions, cracks, little black spots, carbon crystals, you distort the gemstone's ability to transmit energetic frequency through it. So gems are kind of cut in a way, they're almost like a laser beam, like comes through the top, comes down to this point that is then worn, on your finger, the light comes through this way. If you have a really low quality gem, that frequency cannot come through and transmit effectively. So it's really important to go with the highest quality, most flawless gemstone that you can. And if you can't, for example, afford a flawless, natural, untreated blue sapphire for $5,000, don't go and get a $50 blue sapphire off of eBay that's totally opaque. It's not going to do anything. Use a substitute stone like amethyst or something to that nature that's still flawless. We'll discuss the substitutes shortly, but never, ever, ever compromise quality. That's the most important factor, quality and lack of treatment. Size, you're going to see a lot of stuff about sizes of various gemstones out there. Don't pay that much attention to it. Nobody needs a 5 carat blue sapphire. Size is really kind of arbitrary. So many people ask me, they're like, well, I weigh 120 pounds. What size gemstone do I need? That's not how this works. It's not something you're dosing like in your body. The most flawless gems don't have to be bigger than 1 or 2 carats to be incredibly powerful. The larger that you go, the more powerful. If you're working with an uparatna or a substitute stone, go larger because they're not as concentrated in effect. A 2 carat yellow sapphire will be very powerful. A 2 carat citrine, a substitute stone, is not going to be that powerful. So go for an 8 to 10 carat citrine. So dial it up based on concentration. You can think of it like a vitamin C tablet versus a cup of orange juice. When it's concentrated, it doesn't have to be as large to have an effect. Um, so general principle for recommending gemstones is that you want to strengthen your positive, your benefic planets. This is another misconception. If you're new to astrology, if you've gotten astrological recommendations from, astrologers in India on a spiritual pilgrimage, you may have been told to strengthen your malefic planets. Saturn is causing you so much problems. You should wear a giant blue sapphire to appease Saturn. This is not how this works. It's not, Jyotish gemology is not superstition. So you're not strengthening a planet that is giving you problems to make those problems go away. It's not a sacrifice. Saturn's not going to be impressed that you bought this giant blue sapphire, so it's going to stop giving you problems. You are amplifying the frequencies of the corresponding planet. So if you strengthen Saturn with a gemstone, you're going to amplify the significations of Saturn in your life. So always be sure when you're recommending a gemstone for somebody that it is a benefic for their chart. And we'll get into what those are in just a moment. But when you have a planet that's a benefic in your chart, sometimes it's really well placed and strong. It's one of your pillars of strength in your life. And other times it's a benefic planet, but it's weak and it's afflicted and it's in a challenging house, or it's combust, or it's conjunct malefics. So when you're strengthening a planet that's a good guy, but he's struggling, it's going to take a little bit longer to see the results because you're basically course correcting karma in this lifetime in a very short amount of time by shining light on it and working through it with a gemstone. Gemstones neutralize challenging karma They're one of the most effective ways of going about it very quickly. You could spend an entire lifetime learning those same lessons through life experiences, or you can just knock it out by wearing the appropriate gemstone. If the gemstone is for a planet that's a good guy, but he's really strong, he's really friendly, that's kind of just how you maximize blessings. I'm blessed to have a pretty strong Jupiter. So I wear a lot of Jupiter gemstones. Every time I'm having a hard time, I throw another Jupiter gemstone on there, and that just keeps me buoyant. It keeps me optimistic. It keeps me afloat. It's almost like I feel like a cheat code for me because I'm strengthening this really strong planet. The times that I want to get a little bit more medicinal and work through something, I will strengthen one of my planets that are more challenging for me and go through that. It's a whole other journey though. So be prepared for that, because even astrologers that know to recommend gems for the good guys often start by recommending gems for the good but afflicted planets and then disappear when their clients are like, oh my God, what's going on? All of a sudden I'm having to face all this stuff and clear it. And, it's wildly therapeutic. And astrologers are rarely there for follow-ups when they recommend gems. So just be prepared and think about wherever the planet is placed, if it's a good place or a bad place, those are the significations that you will be working through and experiencing in your life. So, yeah. So gemstones will activate a few key things. Planetary lordship. So if you're Aries ascendant, red coral for Mars is going to activate the first house, the house that it rules over. It's going to affect where it's placed. If your Mars is in the third house, it's going to activate significations and karmic lessons of the third house. And then it's also going to activate the significations: courage, motivation, empowerment, overcoming obstacles, things related to Mars. So if you're trying to predict the results of a gem, those are the three things that you want to look at. You can also dig in a little bit to the aspects and other things of the planet. You're basically taking a planet in the chart, unpacking it, highlighting it, shining lights on it, making it become a central theme of focus in your life by wearing the gemstone that corresponds to it. So we can talk a little bit about lordship. And, this is something I just threw together a few minutes ago because this is something Swati and I have been talking about quite a bit. You've got significations of a chart. You've got the classical significations of a chart. And then also in these times of transition, what are the more timeless significations that we're going to see throughout cultural shifts, throughout time? Jyotish is going to make sense throughout time. Jyotish is going to be here for falls of empires. Jyotish is going to be here for Renaissance periods. So, we often talk about gems for the self, the first house, your personality, how people perceive you, your quality of life. In my experience, when you activate a gemstone for the first house, you're activating your relationship to your higher self, to who you are in a higher state of alignment, whoever is maybe beyond your physical body, that higher you really comes through. And something that I find very interesting is when I'm working with somebody to pick out a gemstone to activate the qualities of their first house, often their higher self comes through for that gemstone selection process. So often people say, I don't know what's going on right now, but I'm deeply attracted to this particular 4-carat emerald. I just have this, and I can almost feel it tangibly that their higher aligned self is coming through and dialing in on that gem, because it's a destiny. It's a relationship of destiny that's meant to be, that comes through. If somebody is not ready for this medicine because it is deeply therapeutic, it's deeply karmic, often their lower self will sabotage it. I've had plenty of people who can afford a really powerful gem but are not ready to do the work of alignment, and suddenly these weird excuses come up, all this weird resistance, so the self in various ways really comes through on a first house gem. Anyway, so I don't know how much time I have. Where am I at? Oh yeah, I should wrap it up. But I would just encourage everybody to continue thinking about, when we're talking about Jyotish and significations and activation of gems, like we'll just take the 10th house, for example. I've talked so much over the years to people about their jobs and getting more recognition in the workplace and wearing a gemstone to get a raise and wearing a gemstone so that their angry boss in corporate America doesn't keep sabotaging their work. And it's almost like when you get past all of that, the timelessness, contributing to something greater than ourselves, action, doing, integrating with the world around us in a meaningful and active way. So the 7th house is a really interesting one. The amount of women I have spoken to getting gemstones to make their partner more palatable getting gemstones to try to get married, getting gemstones. I've had so many women in arranged marriages because a lot of Indians, find us hoping that wearing a gemstone will somehow make their arranged marriage something that's fulfilling for them. And when we start decentering relationship and say, what is the seventh house if but a mirror to the first house? How many people with really significant seventh house planetary placements do you see really out there seeking validation from partnership? Because they think that validation is what's going to mirror something back to them, the love that they're not getting themselves. I've seen this quite a lot with people with significant clusters of planets in the seventh house. So if we actually say, if we are all in unity and we are all connected and we look at the seventh house as a mirror back to us and we live a life where we are in our deepest authenticity and we continue adjusting and moving through life and making changes until that which mirrors back to us is the same love and radiance that we are outpouring, that to me would be a really powerful signification of the seventh house that's perhaps a little bit decolonized, so to speak. So how do we decolonize the significations of the various houses? The second house, no longer has to be just about wealth and making money. It's truly about our expression of our values and what is sustenance really on a foundational level. It's not getting a raise at work. It's like the beauty of abundance of food across all times, is such a critical one to our wellness. So this is a fun one to play with. But I think it's really important to talk about the first, fifth, and ninth houses really quick, because these are the ones that we normally want to strengthen with gems. These, in my opinion, are the Dharma houses. The fifth house is classically good luck, good karma from past lives. To me, it's also the house of synchronicity. When you are truly in alignment, all these various things fall into place, they click into place. The ninth house is historically a Dharma house of higher knowledge, of higher learning. So when you strengthen these three specifically to really align with Dharma, that's often where things truly fall into place for people in the most profound way. But not everybody should strengthen the rulers of their first, fifth, and ninth house. It's not a cut and dry rule. And I will give you guys some additional resources on that so you can get a clearer idea of when to strengthen these houses and when to leave them alone. The sixth, eighth, and 12th houses are really interesting ones to me. I think the most medicine is in these houses. These are the houses to me of alchemy. Like the eighth house is probably my favorite house. Classically, it's known as the house of near-death experiences and accidents. I would probably call this one the house of being on the fucking brink. Excuse me. This is the house of when you're really about to just flatline. And that is where you have the most transformation. This is the cocoon effect of liquefying and coming out as a butterfly. The butterfly is moving into the ninth house of Dharma. You almost have to go through this rite of passage of the eighth house to be completely obliterated. It's the house of ego death, I would say, even probably more than literal death. So I love this house, but you don't want to strengthen a planet generally that's placed in this house or predominantly ruled by this house, unless that's the type of medicine that you're going for. I have some shamanic people and stuff that are real into that, but generally I don't recommend it. But just in life, I just think it's really important to honor these classically challenging houses and realize that this is where the most profound transformation in life comes from. What's going on here? So it looks like I am running a little low on time, so we're just going to blast through some of this stuff really quick.
You're fine, Tiffany. Yeah.
Okay. Good. So Sun is one of the most interesting planets to me because it is the source of all life in the solar system, but it's also a natural malefic. And it's always so fascinating to me how that which brings life, that which is essentially the god of our solar system, when out of balance, is truly a malefic. And we see this in the significations of the sun. When in balance and you strengthen the sun with an astrological ruby, it can really help with divine self-realization. It can connect us to our higher self. It can connect us with our creative forces, with our brilliance. It's like a third eye awakening. And when it's out of balance, that's where we see actually a lot of the power imbalances that we see in culture right now. Domination, ego, power. It's the inflammation of arrogance. So, just like you need really a lot of balance to have life even on planet Earth, just the perfect amount of sun creates life on planet Earth. You get that out of balance at all, it's a couple degrees hotter, everything dies again. It's so important to keep sun energy in a state of balance, and it's really obvious when it's out of balance. But I would almost say that there is this like medicinal side of even the malefic expression, which is incineration. Incineration can actually really be a medicine if applied appropriately. It can incinerate expectation, it can incinerate illusion. And actually, I would probably say that that's how the yagyas work. And that's why they are such a removal of obstacles. Most yagyas utilize fire as a primary tool, and it is therefore an incinerator. And I think that's a big part of it. So when you're working with a ruby and you want to keep the effects in balance, you can do that in a couple different ways. You can go with a very small ruby, especially if your sun is already very powerfully placed in your chart. You don't need much to amplify it. If your sun is weak by degree, a 0-degree placement, debilitated, you can go a little bit bigger. You can also go with a pinker ruby, which is going to be a little bit more gentle on the physiology, whereas an intense fire red ruby is going to be more heating to the physiology. If you are familiar with the doshas Vata, Pitta, Kapha in Ayurveda, rubies will increase Pitta, for better or for worse. So they will increase heat, they will increase fire. And for the right people, that can be incredibly helpful and empowering. If you already have a lot of pitta or fire in your physiology, caution, balance, all of that mindfulness is recommended. The more affordable substitutes for ruby are red spinel and garnet. So we offer these for people that don't have the capacity to invest in a 5 or 10 or 20 or $50,000 ruby. These come at a lower price point. And then something I have been working with personally is rubellite, which is a form of pink tourmaline. On the left here, you can see this is one that I recently bought at a gem show. I've got another one on my finger. I really enjoy rubellite, but it does have by nature a lot of flaws on the inside. So I'm playing with it because technically it shouldn't work for astrology because of those inclusions that are always present. But the color spectrum is so powerful. I'm finding when it's a large enough size, it does work. So I'll get back to you on that. I'm always playing around with, as the psychonaut guinea pig, various different gems to see what kind of outcomes I can get. But I do briefly want to talk about Agnihotra as a fire ceremony. Agnihotra is the cheapest way to harness the benefits of the sun and probably the most impactful way that I know of. This is a small fire ceremony you can do with just a couple simple tools you can get online that harnesses the energy of the sun at the midpoint of the horizon when it's setting and when it's rising. It almost creates this laser beam of solar energy that when you do this little tiny ceremony in this little copper pyramid, and you say a very specific mantra and you throw rice into the fire as an offering, the mantra basically is saying, in effect, like, thank you so much, power of the sun. I'm throwing my problems, I am throwing my ego, I am throwing my illusions, I am throwing my lower self identity into this fire. May it be incinerated, may I be in alignment with truth and life force. And people report really powerful healing benefits. It's a harmonizer. So people have cured asthma. There's been just really incredible physiological benefits. And it also, it can neutralize like radiation in water. I mean, it's just really fascinating stuff, the way that this thing works. And it harmonizes the energy field around it. So I do it in my gardens. People report that it creates incredible benefit to agriculture. I do it in my greenhouse a lot to boost the plants there. My animals absolutely love it. They all come, you can feel this like radiation of warmth during this ceremony. All the animals always gather around. So I highly recommend that. Agnihotrasupplies.com. You can get an Agnihotra kit for like $60. So that's gonna be the cheapest way of activating the sun. But again, like the mantras we were talking about, it requires commitment. You actually got to do it at sunrise and sunset. To be honest, I'm never awake at sunrise, but I do it every sunset. Good enough. So I'm getting half the benefit, I guess. But it's a great way to end my day, like whatever busy noise, chaos from my day. I come down, I just throw it in the fire, and then the rest of my evening feels really peaceful. So I highly recommend that one. For moon, the highest expression of moon is emotional peace, caring, nurturing, cooling, and calming, receptivity, and intuition. And we can amplify these qualities with a pearl. Pearls are kind of a challenging one because most natural pearls, as found in the wild, that are the proper quality for astrology have gone extinct. They're really hard to find. We have access to a few people who basically have vaults of pearls. They're both cases actually, they're women who sell these pearls, and their fathers were pearl divers back in the day. And so they have access to these vaults. Every couple of years, they can take a few out. So they're incredibly rare. There are some cultured pearls that work for astrology called tissue nucleated pearls. That's basically it in the cultured pearl world. So I have this little infographic over here. Most of the pearls you buy at the bead store, commercial pearls, have this giant nucleus. They just stick it into an oyster, and the oyster makes a little bit of nacre, or the pearl material, around that nucleus. So if you sawed it in half, you just have a fake material in the center of a pearl. That's not going to do anything for astrology. So you have to have that natural pearl material through the core to the center of the pearl for it to work. I've got plenty of resources on this on the blog and on the website if you want to make sure that the pearls that you're working with are going to have astrological benefit. And then moonstone would be an affordable third choice. But the cracked kind of rainbow moonstone you see in the bead stores doesn't really work. It has to look like this: flawless, milky, translucent. That works relatively well. Mercury, has to do with the mind, the analytical mind, communication, money, travel, and the gemstones for Mercury. The primary gemstone is emerald, and emerald comes in a range of color tones from deep rich green to light minty green. And my experience is that the deep greens activate the Virgo side of Mercury. They are more grounding. The lighter minty green stones activate the more Gemini side of Mercury, the more cerebral, the more mental, the more active, clever. So you can almost like physiologically feel the difference between the two. And if you're working with, for example, an air sign, Gemini, Libra, Aquarius, it's better to go with the light minty green because you might accidentally activate one of the more malefic houses. Libra ascendant, for example, Gemini is going to be their ninth house lordship. So that can give them more clarity about knowledge, philosophy, life purpose. But if you go too deep green, you're going to activate the 12th house where Virgo sits. And that can actually cause exhaustion, depletion. So we want to avoid that. Whereas the earth signs, classically, Virgo falls into more auspicious houses for them. So they can wear those deep green gems and actually generally get better results. So you can fine tune a little bit that way. Green tourmaline is a great substitute for emerald at a lower price point, and peridot. Green tourmaline tends to be a little bit more blue green. So if people have a friendly relationship with Saturn, I tend to lean more towards green tourmaline. Peridot has a little bit more of a Jupiter quality, a little bit more yellow. So like a Gemini ascendant, for example, where they have a healthy lordship of Jupiter, might be more drawn to a peridot. So Mars, another one of our fun natural malefics. In balance, it is the planet of willpower, motivation, strength. When it's out of balance, it is war, battle, anger, hostility, more of those kind of qualities that we're seeing a lot in society these days. But again, when you use the medicine of the malefic qualities, it can be very powerful. For me, I wear a lot of red coral, but I didn't used to because I used to be quite a people pleaser. And whenever I would put red coral on, I would become intolerant of people's stuff that they would throw at me. And and then I feel really guilty for speaking up for myself. And what I realized is that that was actually assertiveness, but I needed to learn assertiveness and not apologize for speaking my truth. So now I'm loaded. I've got a 9-carat coral here. I've got a 17-carat coral here. I've got another 20-carat coral in my bracelet. So I'm really going for it. And what I'm realizing, I've been calling it grounded intolerance. And this is kind of a tough one for me, but I'm realizing that when something reacts that is just absolutely not okay with me, to speak up, but to stay grounded. As a very hypersensitive person, I can definitely react in my emotional body and flail. All right, so honor the intolerance, but stay grounded in it, stay clear in it, and express boundaries and standards, in a way that's coherent and in balance. And that's a great way to kind of work with that malefic medicine, so to speak. But it also does help me, honestly, with energy, with motivation. I am not nearly as active without my red coral. So I'm a fellow fire sign, so it does activate my pitta, but I kind of use it like a drug. It's like a caffeine of sorts. So take that or leave it. And if you did want to experiment with coral in a way that cools it down a little bit, you can do pink coral, which kind of almost adds a little bit of a moon quality. It cools it down. And you can also set it in silver. So one way that I offset my crazy pitta is that all of my red coral is set in silver. Traditionally, it's supposed to be set in gold, but this does almost create a cooling barrier around it. So I get the intensity that I enjoy without completely obliterating myself with all of that pitta heat. So that's one way you can neutralize that a little bit. Venus is the planet traditionally of creativity, of beauty, of feminine qualities. I threw a little note down here. I'm like, is Venus the planet of matriarchy? I'm actually not sure. It could be. It could be. We can talk about that. Like, do we need more of this like feminine empowerment? Because we've noticed that the sun and the Mars stuff out of balance on this planet right now is really throwing the entire planet for a loop. So, what would happen if we brought in more of these Venusian qualities, moon qualities too? Moon may also be matriarchy, nurturing, support. So these are just various things that we can think about. Swati and I were talking the other day about second house and seventh house significations, and maybe considering those may be also and fourth house, the houses of matriarchy and the houses of women, and kind of looking to redefine those significations a little bit as well. But to strengthen Venus, the primary gemstone is diamond. Diamond is fine, but it's one of my least it's not a stone that I'm particularly excited about, only because it has been so heavily commodified. Generally, the prices are not based on rarity, they're based on marketing. So the diamond market actually has been, dare I say, collapsing out of necessity. It's the only precious gemstone right now where we're seeing prices go way down. And that's actually because of the lab grown diamond market is starting to outcompete. So, but it's kind of brilliant because they are starting to now be priced in accordance with their actual rarity, just like the other precious colored gemstones. So I'm delighted to see that. You can now get a diamond for a fraction of the price that you could a few years ago, and that is how it should be. But that said, white sapphire is still a more affordable substitute, and it's considerably more rare than diamond to find flawless, untreated white sapphire. Most white sapphires are heated to turn them blue or to see if they'll change color, because then they could charge more for them. So when you find colorless, untreated white sapphire, it is a very powerful Venus gemstone. So Jupiter is the planet of wisdom, enlightenment, enjoyment, education, and kind of one of the funny medicinal qualities. Swati and I were just talking about this, I think, yesterday, is that one of the ways that Jupiter can help us grow is by having us outgrow our old patterns, outgrowing old versions of themselves, of yourself. And so this is something that I've really experienced being loaded in Jupiter gemstones, is that when I am running a pattern that I have evolved past, or some version of myself is starting to become outdated, Jupiter gems will continue to almost force me to crack out of my old persona, out of my old shell. And those growing pains can be incredibly uncomfortable. But, when we trust the process, when we allow that higher self and that evolved self to come through, we align with considerably more wealth, abundance, knowledge, and those Jupiterian significations can really manifest. But we do just kind of have to crack through the old shell sometimes to get there. Yellow sapphire is the primary gemstone for Jupiter. And then yellow topaz is actually one of my favorite secondary stones. I have on a 9-carat yellow sapphire in a ring, and I have been wearing my 16-carat yellow topaz lately. And they really do have slightly different frequencies. I would say that the yellow sapphire activates more of the Pisces side of Jupiter, the spirituality, the higher knowledge. Topaz has a way of acting more on the physical realm, on physical abundance. I've noticed that it impacts my physical health a little bit more. I don't know if it's really the Sagittarius side of Jupiter. I think both of them are, but they're, the more physical abundant qualities really come through with Topaz. Personally, I tend to also expand horizontally when I wear a lot of topaz. I'm just hungry. I put this big topaz on a couple weeks ago, and lately I've been finding myself deep in thought and just with a sandwich in my hand. Like I don't even realize that I'm eating. It's just like this knowledge is coming through me, but I'm eating at the same time. I can't explain it. So I've probably put on 6 or 7 pounds since I started wearing this one again. But my income has definitely gotten better. My alignment's gotten better. My confidence has gotten better. My spirits are uplifted. So, you win some, you lose some. I'm just trying to just notice when there's a sandwich in my hand. I think I can control it. Only time will tell. And then citrine is going to be the most affordable Jupiter gemstone. But we touched on this earlier. It needs to be really large to have significant benefit because it's just not quite as concentrated as the other gems. So Saturn, this one's Swati's favorite. Saturn is the planet of structure, of coherence. And, I think it's probably the most misunderstood planet in astrology. People really fear it. They think that it brings consequence, and it does. But really, it's just asking us to align ourselves with some of the highest qualities of humanity. Higher understanding, perspective, maturity. It's like growth in the opposite direction of Jupiter. Growth through restriction, growth through taking away, growth through stripping things down and getting to the bare bones of what something really should be about. And when malefic and out of balance, it's very easy for strong Saturn influences to cause depression. The medicinal side of that is probably the grief work that comes along with that. But then ultimately, I think that one of the most brilliant things about Saturn is its ability to give us wisdom through perspective, through that bare bones, through that stripping away. It's not the fun la enlightenment thing that Jupiter does. It's just really the opposite. So this is one that you really have to be careful with, even if Saturn is a functional benefic planet for you. Taurus, Libra, Aquarius, Capricorn, it can still, when too aggressively strengthened with a gemstone, cause some of these side effects of just heaviness. So, using that heaviness medicinally, using it as a tool to help you commit to daily routine, to daily meditation, to daily strength training. We talked about this at the last summit. To me, strength training is one of the best ways to work with Saturn energy, even without gemstones. You're literally lifting iron in the gym. The repetition, the commitment, the daily dedication. It sucks and it hurts, but you come out stronger for it. I mean, it is Saturn. So, the main gem is blue sapphire, and the substitute gems are blue spinel and amethyst. These can give you some of that coherence, structure, commitment, dedication without being as heavy as the blue sapphires. So there is a time and a place for a substitute stone simply to help you modulate or regulate the dose of the planetary frequency that you're working with. Rahu and Ketu gemstones, I do not recommend unless you really have specific reasons for activating these shadow planets. Rahu, I have seen people play with Rahu gems. Rahu gems are our most commonly returned gem. I always tell people to be very careful with it, but so many astrologers recommend Rahu gems for people's Rahu Mahadasha or something like that. And Rahu does have a way of being a planet of illusion. So I've seen so many people be like, oh yeah, I'm going to get this and I'm going to become famous and powerful. And then they just get so freaking uncomfortable when they're actually wearing the gem and they're like, never mind, something's just not right here. These influences are so related to shadow. And when you're trying to work with a gemstone to amplify light through the shadow consciousness, you really got to be targeted with it. There is a time and a place, but just for the sake of brevity, it's probably not the time and the place for you. But there's the gems if you needed to know. And I do have blogs online about Hessenite and Cat's Eye and the anticipated results, when to do it and when to not do it. So just to wrap up some of the ethics in what I do help people find their gems, but I never, ever pressure people to buy gems. This is between you and your highest self It's between you and your finances. If it lines up and you are ready for it, then I am here to be of service. One of the things that I listen for when people are looking for gems or testing out one of the gems is when they say to me, I love it. When people tell me they love something, I know that we're on the right track. The heart connection is a really big part of this. But I will never insist that somebody needs a gem, because you don't. It's a privilege, it's a blessing, but nobody technically needs gems. But we are very grateful to have them as a resource. Gemstone disclosures, that's talking about, we were talking about this earlier, treatment clarity grades. There are so many people out there that sell astrological gemstones that are heat treated or synthetic, and they don't even disclose it. So that's really critical. Safe recommendations, we touched on this as well. It's so important, if you are recommending gemstones or working with somebody who does, that they are keeping safety in mind, able to predict the results of the gems with as much accuracy as possible, and also able to disclose certain side effects that could happen, so you can keep an eye on them and work with those effects to make sure that you are in control of the outcome that you are going to get. Their pricing is a really big one. These gems are incredibly rare. They're incredibly hard to find, and they're incredibly valuable. So they are expensive. We pay a lot for the gems that we sell, but we are really careful. We do not put these giant retail markups on them. If jewelry stores on Fifth Avenue in New York had these same gems, they would cost a lot more. So we're really careful not to put these crazy markups. I often will try to work with people on pricing however I can. It's more important to me to get the right gems to the right people than really anything else. Respectful handling is another really important one. We are very careful. We soak our gems in salt water. We have all sorts of sacred geometric tools in the office that we bless and we charge them. I have a little bit of a pirate potty mouth sometimes. If I'm holding somebody's gemstone, I don't swear. I'm really careful with what I say, because again, sound vibration is very energetically linked to light vibration. So, I keep my sassy self kind of in check if I am holding or working with a gem, especially after it's been purchased by somebody. When a gem's been purchased by somebody, it starts working for them before they even receive it. That karmic connection is established, and you can feel it in the gem that it's somebody's. So at that point, I completely elevate my respect for the gemstone that I'm holding or shipping or cleansing or cleaning to a whole other degree. And then ethically sourced is a really interesting one, because no matter what, we are mining from the earth. So I put this one in quotes because it's almost like, and this is something I'm still actively trying to figure out now, there is this element of exploitation anytime that we are harvesting a mineral or a precious resource from the planet. So until this is totally clarified for me, I'm keeping that in quotes. We are very careful with the people that we work with. We work directly with suppliers from Sri Lanka for our sapphires, with Colombian dealers. They're working directly with, the mines there. So, it's not like the blood diamond market. It's not that dire. But there are certain sources that we have seen at the mines that are working on sustainability. They're planting, they're reforesting. And these gems do cost more, but the more that we can establish a conscious relationship at the mines, make sure that everybody is treated well, make sure that the earth is treated well, the more I think that the planets and the universe will support us getting gems to people. But as times are changing right now, as we are questioning the role of capitalism and commerce, this is something that I am personally really interested in, is figuring out how we can mine gems, work with gems in a way that we give back, that we are conscious, and that we are not bypassing the fact that the earth often is exploited in exchange for these resources that we have. So that one's in quotes for the time being. We talked about offerings. I do have a coupon code, 20% off of all of our gemstones for anybody who has participated in this class. And there's a really important blog article on my blog, astrologicalgemblog.com, the best gems for every sign. If you are interested in doing readings for people and you start wanting to do gem recommendations, I highly suggest bookmarking this article, because I will tell you the general principles of what gems to recommend for each ascendant, which ones to be careful with, and which ones to avoid. So this is a really good starting place, so you don't have to make the same mistakes that I made over the years. it's a cheat sheet that's going to work 90% of the time. So I've also started a YouTube channel, Tiffany Vedic Gemologist, where I do plan, part of my anti-capitalist agenda is to upload an entire library of everything that I know. So I'm going to be posting new blog articles, corresponding videos, ins and outs of every single bit of this, everything that I have learned, everything that I have verified, so that it's out there for free to the world. So stay tuned. Feel free to follow. And I think that's about it from me. So I'll go ahead and stop my screen here. I hope that made sense.
I'm hoping you're gonna create a course or something that maybe
Yeah,
that's coming.
that would be great. That's a good idea.
Something's gonna be birthed with all those Jupiter gems. Come on,
Burst
lady.
or bursts, one or the other. Yeah.
It's coming. So a few things that really stood out for me. I think this was the most authentic offering I've heard from you, because obviously we have these conversations, but I'm like, yeah, she brought it in there. Some of what I know you're contemplating and really leaning into right now. This is that time where we should be questioning, right? We should be asking new questions. Vedic technology is timeless, right? Satyameva Jayate. But asking new questions, right? This is what I find really interesting. So you brought some good questions to us today. Also, the gems have their dharma.
Yes.
Each gem has its own dharma. And I know you have some really good stories about that, how gems and people find each other, how the gems and the people connect. Um, we should really just do a whole class on that. That would
Yeah, we really should.
maybe
Yeah.
that should have been the topic today.
Start over.
We could do it again. So mantra, also, I like that you brought in the mantra and the yagyas. Obviously, we talk about yagyas a lot, and we're going to have Ben talk about yagyas as well in our summit again this year. But the mantra, the gem, and the yagyas, they have different purposes. They require a little more effort, while the mantras require effort. Gems are kind of like you get the support without the Saturn of effort involved. It's very Raja Yoga.
Yes. Yeah.
Very
They're
Raja.
convenient. It's a blessing of convenience. Yeah.
Blessing of convenience. Um, Anything you want to add, any last story or anything? I could share my pink spinel story, which
I think you should. I think it'd be really cool if you shared. I just snapped a picture over here because I saw some questions coming up. I wasn't sure if it disappear again. Pardeep asked two questions. The first one she asked, let's just touch on this real quick. How do I know what benefic planet I have in my chart and what I need for it? So your benefic, yes, it ties right into the second question here. Do you offer a personal session to go over your chart?
And
Yes.
she does. And so that's how I would.
Right now. I'm wearing a hestonite and went when you mentioned it's a Rahu stone. So thank you.
Yes.
Yes.
And I mean, isn't there, like, for me, when I see the cat's eye or the hestonite, I literally have a repulsive response in my body. Pardeep, no, and I want to have that conversation with you, Pardeep, knowing what's going on.
There it is. We see it.
That could be the whole problem right there, my dear. So, yeah, we want to be really careful. And as Tiffany always reminds us, like, you probably don't need more Rahu or Ketu in your life. Yeah.
That's a summit discussion.
That could have been a whole
start over. Party.
Another one.
Party on. Here we go.
So my story about sun, because, and we're still going to test this theory a little bit more, but Tiffany is testing these gems all the time on herself, and I hear about it, and it's interesting, I will say. So we decided to go pink spinel instead of ruby for me because I didn't want to be completely obliterated. And as she mentioned, the pink is the softer element of sun. So if you don't want the obliterating incineration of the sun, you can soften that. Go pink. And so I have my pink spinel here. And within 24, 48 hours, I started vomiting. I was in bed and it was clearly purifying my body. And then within a month, I broke up with my boyfriend, finally cut the cord and was like, this is not a good situation for me, not a good person to have in my life. So, in other words, the sun qualities power, right? And my sun is Marana in the ninth conjunct Rahu. So, this is a big part of my dharmic path, actually, is to needs to strengthen sun and in Cancer. So, that water quality, low Agni, right? But needs the medicinal, gentle qualities of sun. But that was like immediate response for me. And then went through a lot of father stuff. I mean, I could name all kinds of things, and Tiffany has heard all about it, that came with that. Just a little support of the sun, right? And suddenly power activates, choices are clearer. My no is louder and firmer. And it's been a really powerful experience. So that's where Tiffany can help you. And I really trust you, Tiffany. I mean, that's one thing. Not only are you an amazing woman and a dear friend, but I really trust you and I trust your wisdom and your insights. And you're not going to put a red ruby on someone when that's really not in their best interest.
Exactly.
And
Yes.
she's very tempered in her recommendations, which is another reason I trust and love you. And, we don't see that a lot in the Jyotish world. It's like, let's go big guns. And, how many blue sapphires do I see? And it's like, oh, you
Exactly.
don't need to do that. There's a better way, there's a gentler way, there's, a way to learn the lessons that don't have to be so hard. So,
Beat you up no matter what, Do you really need more beating up in that ring?
most of us don't, right? So, book in with Tiffany. She'll help you clarify what do you need to strengthen in your chart, what not to strengthen, and then give you gemstone recommendations. So please honor her time. She's very busy and she loves helping people. But if you need this gemstone support, she's definitely your woman.
Mm-hmm.
Definitely.
Yeah. And what I can do, feel free to reach out. If you just want me to tell you just real quick the gems you should wear and the ones to avoid, I'm happy to do that free of charge. If you wanted a more comprehensive written consultation, the cost is $108, and that's credited back to you if you buy a gem from us. But that would give you like a full written thing. And I do like to do consultations in writing so that 3 years from now, 5 years from now, you can look back on that because the results are going to be predicted and you can track them. As if we're just chatting on the phone, a lot of that stuff gets lost. I like having it documented right off the bat before you even get the gem, what I said it's going to do. And then you can let me know if that came true or not.
And you can find her information on the website, so astrologicalgemstones.com. And of course, she's generously offering us a 20% discount if you book from the summit. Okay, so go have fun in Miami, Tiffany, and let me know how it goes. Can't wait to hear the update. And thank you so much for your time and being you. And I just love you and I adore you.
Love you too. Same. Likewise. Thank you, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.
See you back here in about an hour, everyone. We're going to talk exalted planets with Megan. See you soon. Bye.